how do you increase your pay rate? Because remember, we're now still in the self-examination phase, and you have to know your pay rate and what you're worth before you go out to the recruiters. So then you can basically put out your requirements and know what you should ask for. If you want to increase your pay rate, generally you don't want to work with MSPs. Their expectations are usually a lot lower because they usually are used to getting contractors for a lower price on average. And that's again because there's more competition for the same contract. You have all these staffing firms with all these networks all trying to pour into that one contract. Just because a staffing firm does work with a client that has an MSP, they may have other contracts that are with clients who don't have an MSP. Networking is one of the biggest ways to increase your pay rate. In a lot of cases, you just need to sift through contracts and know that you're going to have to go through them in order to find the pay rate that you want, especially if you're asking for a little bit higher pay rate than what's average. If you don't do that and you don't have that network, then you're not able to sift through them, and you're only getting a few to consider. I'm constantly sifting through contracts because my network is so large. I can wait for the dollar per hour that I'm looking for. And that's without me having to go out and go do so much connecting recruiters, because I have done that already. Increasing your skill set is a very good one as well. It helps you very much too with the long term. Your skills, some skills are just in higher demand. Process validation, maybe auditing, maybe some EUMDR type of different things are at different points. Even before, component qualification with suppliers was not as big a deal, and those with process validation and having supplier quality experience are now in demand. But you could actually see that several years ago that the trend was heading this way. And that's one of the things that I did, is I started to put myself into positions that would have me get that desired skill when I was consulting, so that I can move into this direction. I call this the spiral of death, and you need to avoid it. Go through your personal finances, know your expenses, do your budget. If you're coming from a full-time salary, guess what? You were living on a full-time salary. Just stay at that level. Don't go buying, a crazy amount of things, bigger house, bigger car. Wait for that. Those things will come. You save your 3 months of expenses. And the reason you do this is because contracting world, consulting world, both of those things are feast or famine, is what we say in the industry. There will be times when you're getting contracts, offers all over the place for high hourly rates. There'll be times when you're not seeing anything, especially when your network's not large enough. Just to give you an example of why I never have a problem finding another contract for the hourly rate that I'm looking for. This is what my network looks like now. For you, start simple. Next thing you know, you're talking to recruiters. Recruiters will talk to you all day long. Again, don't neglect the quality consultants too, because that might be a good opportunity for a side project. The recruiters, they're always willing to connect with you. Sometimes the staffing agency may ask you if you have some general liability protection, if you're doing sort of a corp to corp situation. The general is $1 million is what you're looking for. It's super cheap. It's like $30 a month. I use Hiscox. Definitely recommend them. I also get professional errors and omissions in the event that I was to make an error doing consulting. Covers me for about $500,000, and that's like an extra $60 a month. So it's $100 a month to be very covered. Benefits, talk to the staffing firm. A lot of times, especially if they offer a W-2 option, they do offer the benefits. However, they can vary wildly as far as how much they cover, how good they are. So you really want to take a look at it and see if you shouldn't get your own benefits set up through your LLC. Something to think about as far as whether or not you should go and get your individual insurance and your benefits set up, your 401k, all of those things, or get through a staffing firm. Contacting recruiters, get out there. Message them. Put open to work on your LinkedIn. Respond to all recruiters' messages, even if it's just simple. Thanks for reaching out. I'm not available at the moment, but please, thank you for sending me information on the contracts. I'll be available when my contract ends this certain times, and hey, this is what I'm looking for. Actually connect with them, send them a connect message, research them a little bit, make sure they're in your field, that they're essentially doing the skills that you're looking for, or maybe that they could connect you with a recruiter in their own staffing firm that is recruiting for those type of positions. Especially more important too if you're in like regulatory or project management, because there might be certain recruiters that do and focus on those particular positions as opposed to just quality in general. Search job posts. Generally, when a recruiting firm cannot find people within their own database and can't easily message people on LinkedIn, they'll usually post a job on LinkedIn Jobs, or maybe make a post. If you're networking with other contractors or the consultants and you're letting them know what you're looking for, if they see that post, they can always forward it over to you. So you're just building that network. First thing you do when you get on the recruiter call, after you say, hey, thanks for meeting me, what's the pay rate? That's how fast you need to get to that pay rate. I mean, obviously, have more small talk. I'm only kidding to a certain extent. But after you get through the pleasantries, the very first question is, what's the pay rate? So that was the first reason, is for more negotiating reason. The second reason, you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste theirs. They may have another question just to understand, hey, if I was to find you a job description like this that was within this pay rate, would that be something you're interested in? Answer the question. Those are the kind of things that you want to talk about early on. So you're not wasting all this time, yours and the recruiters, talking about the job description for 30 minutes and you find out that the pay isn't right. Give your other requirements, your location, your travel frequency or amount, the type of skills you're looking for, or job descriptions or roles. If they're working with the MSP, remember that they may not be flexible with the hourly rate, because all of these other staffing firms out there are all searching for the same person, and they're essentially operating to some extent off of a narrow playing field with what they can do with the pay. If they're working direct with the client, there's generally more wiggle room. Not always, but there's generally more wiggle room. So you might have a little more ability to just ask for the pay that you actually want and stick to it. Inquire on their process. Like I mentioned, some have a technical review or a technical interview after this call. Some will have drug screening, background. The time that they can do that in varies. Some say, hey, we can do it 1 week. Some say 2 weeks to 3 weeks. It just depends. And then, of course, make sure you talk about your availability. Again, not always performed. Generally, the staffing firm will have their own specialists. They may or may not, if they don't have it in that particular specialty, may ask maybe somebody in their network to interview you, or they may ask for a reference letter in lieu of doing a technical interview, or in addition to. That can still happen. The questions you're going to be asked during the technical interview is about your level of skill that's on your resume. There may be some times where they'll be able to give you more insight into what the client wants. But in general, they're going to look at the job description, they're going to look at your resume, and they're going to ask you questions to see if you're up to par with what the job description is requiring. And again, be honest. Just like you were being honest with yourself in the self-examination, be honest here. You come prepared to be honest. Hiring manager interview. This would be an employee of the client. Research them on LinkedIn before you get there. Try to understand a little bit where they're coming from, read the recommendations, maybe even look at what they've posted. Just do a little research on them and be ready. Have specific examples from your resume that you think would apply to the job description. There's 2 questions that I think you should always ask, and this will help kind of draw out if the job description is in fact right, like rightly written, and it applies to what the hiring manager actually wants. You'll also figure out, because they may be doing this to fill like a lower level need. But if you can figure out their higher level need, like one of the things that's the most important to them, and if you could actually help them with that, and you show that you understand that, even asking the question shows that you understand their needs. It raises you from just being another contractor to start getting into that advisor level. How will this position help you? Very simple. Seems like it's not a big deal, but it actually starts to cause the person to think about how this position will help them, and it will generally draw out the things that they need from you. And another one is very simply, in your eyes, what would make this position successful? I like this question a lot because it starts to set bullet points in that hiring manager's mind of, if they do this, and this, I have considered them successful. They may have a general idea that if these things on the job description are taken care of, that it'd be successful. But there may be a few, maybe 2 or 3 things, and that's usually what it is. Maybe 2 or 3 things that if you do those things, then you'll be successful. So when you get on the job, you do those 2 or 3 things to the best of your ability, and you'll find how much more that hiring manager likes you. You will gain that good advisor role in their eyes, and that's where you want to be. Give feedback to your recruiter regularly. This is just a nice little bonus tip. It's not something that you have to do. Talking to your recruiter and just telling them, hey, I think there may be some opportunities here coming up in the future. Just keep your eyes open. Whatever it is, just figure out a ways to talk to your recruiter regularly, and you want to keep yourself in that person's mind, that recruiter, as much as possible, because they've already submitted you. You've gotten on board. Yes, you're already there in their mind, but again, they've gone on to talk to other candidates for other contract positions. You want them constantly thinking of you so that whenever they get a contract available and you're at the end of yours, you're the first person that they call. Network with employees on the job. This is such a key thing, because people will start having conversations about you when you're not even in the meeting. And this can happen remotely as well. Get on the call 5 minutes early so you could just talk about, hey, what happened this weekend? Become indispensable. This goes back to those 3 bullet points, and the thing that they said they really want that's going to make it successful. You start working on those things, you'll be indispensable. If you find an opportunity to do that in another area as well, and you can help out, and especially if it would be in an impactful way, try to do that. Remember that perception is everything, especially if you're working remote. This is so important because remote workers, there's that perception that you're not necessarily working. It's not as bad as it used to be before the pandemic. It's still out there. And so you need to make sure that you're not doing things that would make it seem or make people doubt that you're not working. Find work on your desired skill set and look for the after work. It kind of goes back to the feedback that you get to your recruiter. So if you see opportunities for more business, if your hiring manager says, hey, I'm looking for another contractor, I'm trying to hire, I just haven't got around to the job description yet, ask them what they're looking for, and then offer to see your recruiter can get a head start on looking for those people. Or if you know some people that you could suggest, and go talk to your recruiter and tell them that, hey, there's possibly an opportunity coming up, and here's the skills that they're looking for. And if you even have a candidate, another contractor that you could recommend, that's even better, because then you can give a recommendation to your hiring manager, and it just makes everybody's happiness. Your hiring manager is happy because it didn't take forever for them to find somebody. Recruiter's happy because they just filled another position. Contractor is happy because they just got a position. And guess what happens? They're eventually going to go on to another position, and they may have the chance to return the favor. That whole reciprocity really works.